Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the April meeting of the Architectural Committee of Philadelphia's Historical Commission. And let's begin with introductions. So we have Amy,
Amy Stein with the committee. Good morning.
Justin,
Justin Detweiler of the committee.
Sam,
Sam Weiner of the committee.
Allison,
Allison Lakachik, committee.
John,
John Kluver of the committee.
and Nan.
Nan Gutterman, committee.
So we will begin with Executive Director Dr. John Farnham reading some procedures and protocols for today's meeting.
Thank you. Good morning. As the chair said, my name is John Farnham. A couple of notes about how today's meeting will run. The meeting is being recorded, and by participating in the meeting, you are consenting to being recorded. The recording will be available later today or tomorrow on the Historical Commission's website, www.phila.gov/historical. Also on that website, you'll find everything you need to participate in today's meeting on the public meetings page of the website. There you'll find the agenda for the meeting, application materials, and any public comment received by noon yesterday. Every agenda item includes an opportunity for public comment if you'd like to comment, or if you are a member of the application team and you'd like to be recognized, you will need to raise your hand at the start of the review. And then once the chair has called on you to speak, you'll need to unmute yourself from your end using the audio or mute, unmute toggle in Zoom. If you happen to be on a telephone, I see we do have one telephone caller right now, *9 to raise and lower your hand, *6 to mute and unmute. The committee typically makes its decisions by unanimous consent, but if there is apparent disagreement among committee members, a roll call vote can be conducted. And then the Historical Commission has adopted guidelines for conduct at its meetings. Those guidelines include time limits, order of presentation, and other rules related to the conduct of the meetings. If you're unfamiliar with them, please take a look at them. They are on the public meetings page of the Historical Commission's website. Thank you.
All right. With that, let's move to the first item on the agenda, which is 137 North 2nd Street.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Dan Chahar-Krasnov with the staff. Could we please elevate Kate Jacoby of Mural Arts Philadelphia to panelist? I think she's the only person addressing this as the applicant, but if anyone else is here representing the application, please raise your hand and you can be raised to panelist. I will read a brief overview. This application proposes to install a mural on the south facade of the building at 137 North 2nd Street. The adjoining buildings at the northeast corner of Elfress Alley and North 2nd Street were demolished in 1966. The exposed party wall is clad with stucco. The mural will be created off-site with panels assembled and installed on-site. The facade will be primed. The mural cloth panels adhered to the wall with acrylic gel adhesive, sealed with clear acrylic, and 2 additional clear coats applied to protect against UV rays. The project is being undertaken in cooperation with the Elfress Alley Association, Old City District, and Technically Philly. Sean Martana is the lead artist. The mural's design celebrates the work of artisans, tradespeople, makers, and crafters in anticipation of the America 250th celebration. The staff recommendation is approval with the staff to review details pursuant to Standard 9 and Section 6.15.a of the Historical Commission's rules and regulations. And as I said, Kate Jacoby is here to address the staff recommendation. And Kate, if you want to go ahead and do that, then we can move this along.
Good morning. Hi, I'm here.
Good morning.
Thank you. Were there any specific questions that I could answer? I've been working on preparing some information or gathering information about the permeability ratings, and we are still actively resourcing that information.
This is Nan Gutterman of the committee. I have a question. Has someone evaluated the condition of the stucco to ensure that it is adhere and in good condition, since you're relying on the stucco over the brick to adhere your mural?
We have, and we will. There are some repairs on the bottom portion that we will be getting prepared or repaired in coming weeks.
And is the stucco, to the best of your knowledge, applied directly to the brick? There's no lath or anything?
There is some lath. There is a section at the very bottom. The cars in this photo are blocking it that has kind of fallen apart a little bit. I don't know if it's been hit by cars in the past or whatever, but that there are some areas where the wire has kind of rusted out, and so that will be repaired to that, back to that level, kind of taking out some of that wire, replacing it, putting on fresh stucco for that bottom section. There's a couple other areas where they will be inspecting that have been aligned up with that that stack to the right side. So we will be getting that whole wall kind of checked out and assessed.
And how will the mural, the bottom portion of the mural, be protected from cars hitting it in the future?
I don't know that there's much we can do for that. We are using the only different kind of added layer on the bottom there, probably where it is showing in this picture, that lighter colored paint, is we will be putting an anti-graffiti coating we were considering on that bottom section. But the cars do park pretty close up to it, unfortunately, because they are all rented out spaces. So I don't know if we are exploring, like, if there's even like a way to put like some kind of bollard like lined up where each of those three cars is parallel. We haven't gotten that approval yet from the owner, but we are open to kind of looking into that cost, or some kind of little buffer that would, just a couple inches at least, allow a car like not to be right up on it. But it is a pretty tight parking lot, and it doesn't have a lot of circulation space for pushing something off a few feet from the wall, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Justin Detweiler of the committee. I have a question. In the very bottom left of the photograph, there's a return of brick onto this side of the building, as well as the portion of the metal cornice. Are you going over that, or are you going around that?
We will be cutting around that, so that will remain. We won't be kind of covering that over anything. So while the photo mock-up, which is just a draft design, might show that not kind of cut out, that will be cut precisely up to the edge of that, so that there will be no material, mural, or even sealer onto that brick portion.
I think that's important. I also applaud you for involving the Alfred Alley Association. It's a wonderful group of people there, and I think what most people forget is that this is a neighborhood of people's homes. So it's really important that you did that, and I appreciate that.
Thank you for that feedback. Yeah, they've been great to work with and very enthusiastic. I think that wall is not the prettiest wall right now, and so I think there's been a lot of people eager for something more beautiful there. And the fact that the subject matter, there's been a lot of requests over the years, from my understanding, of people wanting to do a mural at this site, but none of them had actually ever thought to kind of include or really dig into some of the history there, which is really an amazing history, as all of you know. But it's nice that we get a chance to kind of honor the legacy and history of the artisans and makers and tradespeople who first lived there, and have, just this past weekend was their annual spring makers market. So they kind of keep these traditions alive by, keep telling that story. And it's really exciting that we can help bring something visual there. This is a draft design, but this is kind of referencing a lot of old historical architectural elements and these plans from these old Chippendale furniture pieces and windows, and a leaded glass window. So these little elements that have these patterns in them are kind of mimicking pieces of glass that, the flora and fauna kind of winds around it and connects it by having different trade tools in there. The patterns are different patterns of either textiles or lace or materials of things that have been made around the neighborhood, or helped inform what became the Workshop of the World. And really, it kind of was rooting this, the impetus of the Workshop of the World for Philly really down to Elfrist Alley, where a lot of those artisans and makers and tradespeople first lived. And then a lot of the references in here about the garden components and whatever might be depicted in here as food or herbs, that was stuff that they actually grew in these gardens tucked along Elfrist Alley. There's a couple like almost like hidden gardens that they still to this day are growing some of the things that they grew in like 100 years ago. And so across the street is going to be the Dolly Oddie Park, named after the Elfrist Alley Association founder. And she ran a little restaurant off of the alley and grew food that actually used to feed all the artisans and tradespeople. So it's really a nice kind of like tie-in within a tie-in to kind of pay homage to the makers and the people who supported them. So it's really an honor to be able to do something here, especially in time for the 250th.
Well, thank you for sharing the themes of the mural. It's helpful.
Sure.
Any other comments from committee members? Is there public comment?
One hand is raised. David Traub.
Good morning, David Traub, representing Save Our Sites. Just a question. Has there been any consideration, and this is a general question for a mural arts project, of holding the mural away from the edges of the wall, of the bare wall, so that in a sense the image is framed by segments of the existing wall. So in my opinion, that would give a better appearance, but that's just our opinion. Thank you.
Sure, thanks for your question. We have thought about, at one point, we have sometimes installed murals on metal panels to kind of keep it off of the wall, just even sometimes a few millimeters or an inch or so. I don't know, the owner had not been necessarily too open to that at the time. And so, I think really what we can do with the paint aspect is kind of give it a little bit more of a 3D effects. And so the rendering, when things go from like a digital rendering into painting, we will have a little bit more 3D effects when we paint and kind of render all these details and finesse them, because all of the glass itself is designed to kind of be like more of like a beveled glass that has a little bas relief. And so even for that framing, which is modeled after like a wrought iron fence, we do plan to kind of give that a little bit more depth. So there won't be anything physically kind of 3D off the wall, just for safety reasons and the permission of the owner. There'll be a different kind of ask, but we will, to our best of ability, kind of give it a little bit more 3D effect when painting it. So we're hoping that maybe gives it a little bit more depth feel to it, but with all the cars there, it was just not something that the owner was comfortable with.
Right. Is there any other public comment?
No other hands are raised.
All right, then let's have a motion.
Make a motion of approval with the staff to review details pursuant to Standard 9 and Section 6.15.a of the Historical Commission's Rules and Regulations.
I'll second.
All right, then unless I hear otherwise, we have unanimous consent.
Aye.
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 All right, the next item is to
Thank
begin at 9:25, so we've got 10 minutes. Let's see. Do we have Sam? Are you with us? Yes. Nan, are you with us?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. So the next item on the agenda is 302 Market Street.
Good morning, committee members. This is Alex Till with the staff. I will be reading a brief overview for this particular project this morning. But first, if we could elevate Rich Villa to panelist for this particular application. He is the architect and applicant for it. I do see that his name is signed in multiple times, so I hope we don't get confused with which is the correct Rich Villa. But that being said, let's move forward. So this particular application proposes to demolish the two-story brick building at 302 Market Street, which was constructed in 2017, pictured here on the left. It further proposes to construct a new five-story building in its place, pictured here on the right. The new building will have a contemporary design with a first-floor storefront and a masonry facade that employs different colors and textures of brick. It will also feature windows of various sizes that get smaller on the upper floors and feature a multi-light design over a single light design. Front facade will face Market Street, but the rear will not be visible from any public rights of way. Just for a little background, the original circa 1840 four-story Greek Revival building on this property was unfortunately lost in a fire in 2014. The Historical Commission did review and approve the existing two-story building at its May 2015 meeting. So the staff's recommendation for this particular project is approval, with the condition that the upper floor windows are revisited and simplified pursuant to Standard 9. And also, just so folks know, this is what the corner looked like before the fire in approximately 2013. Obviously, the building wasn't in the best condition at the time. It's sort of indicated with an arrow here, the shirt, suit, and tie corner.
Is the applicant with us?
I am. I don't know if everybody can see here. I am on twice because I'm talking on my phone, but looking at my computer.
All right, good morning. So, would you like to respond to the staff's comments?
I talked to Alex about this. You know, I sort of did the facade as a, I like to work a lot of, I like to look at a lot of the historical buildings that are extant and gone. And there is a building, if you go to the next page, Alex, sorry, keep going. Right there. The building on the upper left is around the corner on 3rd Street and employs those same, multi-pane, multi-light over single light windows that you see. Like if you look at historical photos, that like Addison Hutton did that a lot, like the Wilson brothers. And I like that idea of it feeling like having like a top-heavy window pane. And that's just around the corner on 3rd Street. And then the brick patterning, I work in Old City. I walk around all the time. I love the idea of doing a pattern of brick that's horizontal, that sets up the windows. And then in the elevations, you could see stepping up the windows and playing with the width and the number of windows. So they go from 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 at the top. They get smaller. It's just like I think it's a nice design detail, including those windows. And then the bricks that I'm choosing are 2 bricks that are found in Old City. They're just mixed together. There's like there's a lighter brick that's sort of a traditional brick, and then a darker. Alex, if you can go back to the last page again. So the bottom brick is rum raisin, has a little gloss to it. And I've used that before, and it really looks nice with the right mortar. And then the windows are not black. They're the Terratone windows, which are sort of like that dark putty color. And then, instead of just doing storefront on the ground floor, we're doing that same pattern of multi-pane, multi-light window over storefront. And then there's just a nice little, like 6 or 7 layer brick cornice at the top with the numbers of the building dimensionally put in bronze at the top of the building. This building sits on the south side, so it doesn't get natural, the sun's not hitting it all the time. So I did all this stuff to just give it detail and give it some feeling, because it's not going to have shade and shadow that you would normally see if you were to put brick details on the building. Ins and outs, relief and reveal. So I like the windows. That's what I'm saying.
So Rich, I think this is a fabulous block, a very stately mid to late 19th century retail buildings. I just have a couple of questions. I'm generally a supporter going from a two-story building to a five-story building in this neighborhood, and this block feels like the right move, so thank you. I do want to ask a couple of questions about the proportions of the building. I wasn't sure if you had studied going a little bit taller, but you're proposing a five-story building. If you look at the building, yes, and 301 is the perfect page. If you look at the building to the left, that building is 4 stories. So you're actually below that building with a 5-story building. So your floor-to-floor plates are much more compressed. Where I think in this neighborhood, it makes a true difference because the buildings all have different heights and the floor to floors are different heights. You can see the building, the pink building to the far right is even taller, 5-story building. It's the first floor. So right now, your first floor to me feels very, very compressed. And I'm wondering if you can raise that up 2 or 3 feet so that you can get a height for that first floor and signage band for a future retail tenant that's more in keeping with the rest of this block. I think it would make an absolutely huge difference. And also in regard to the storefront, the brick panel that's between the door and the window to the left feels pretty heavy-handed. You know, what you find in this neighborhood because of its architectural era typically are colonnettes, so more glazing and less masonry. So I'm wondering if you are able to make any adjustments to the height of the first floor and building, or to change the patterning on the first floor to really indicate a little bit more glass and a little bit less masonry.
So the building, as it looks as if it's 5 stories, it is a building that is 3 official stories. There are 2 levels of mezzanine. So the upper floor, the top floor is an 8-foot ceiling in a mezzanine, so there's a 2-story space in the front. And it's the same with the 2 units on what you're calling 2 and 3. I do want to go taller with it. If I added another floor, I would have to have 2 stairs, and that creates issues with the commercial space being too small. So I'm getting to the point where I can't fit any more stairs in to make it taller. I can certainly look at making the first floor taller. I don't mind doing that at all. And I will look into that. It's not going to get taller than the other buildings. I don't think so. I mean, I can definitely take a look for the commission meeting. As for the commercial space, I know exactly what you're talking about with the retail of making it more glassy. I am stuck on the proportion, on the numbers of 5, 4, 4, 3, 2, and bringing the verticals of the windows down in that pattern to hit the ground, and obviously having 2 at the bottom. I did look at doing 1. I don't mind doing 1. I take I know it will be a retail space, and the commercial is the only thing that's accessed from the street, so the residential is from the back. And I would certainly take a look at making that a wider commercial space. I guess I'm saying.
I appreciate so much of this project, Rich. I think, I appreciate the application. I appreciate the way you're showing us some materials and all this other stuff. This is something I personally am always kind of harping about, that we don't see enough of this in applications. I also appreciate that you're giving great attention to the detail and all of that. I share Amy's opinion that the building wants to be taller. For me, it's about alignment. If you elevated that first floor, I'm not as concerned about that brick banding as Amy is between the first and second floor. If that first floor lifted up and your second floor windows align, your third floor windows get a little closer, etc. I think this neighborhood, in particular this district, is this kind of frequent continuation of these early 19th century buildings. You're coming in with a design that's kind of late 19th century. I don't disagree with that, but for me, it comes down to alignment. And if there's a way to elevate that first floor window height that you could bring your second floor more into alignment, I think that would go a long way.
And I'll speak to the retail part. Studying and looking at like the banks of Old City, where they would have a front door and then they'd have a side window, and the bank was, like there's the I think it's the Reliance Bank where Furness does the little round, half oval and a small window next to it. I like that idea that there's two openings there, and that's really where I landed with the 2, 3, 4, 5. And making it.
Well, I can personally handle the 2. That's
Okay.
that doesn't bother me. It's the height.
Yeah. And I completely agree. And I know that from this perspective, it's very strange because the building to the left looks like it's really taller, but it's just the cornice being proud. So if you look, the image on the left there, I would love for it to be pushed taller than the building to the left. I'll take a look at that. It really comes down to how many stairs I can make work.
I think the other thing I'll note is your renderings are great. Your drawings, your elevations show the windows of the adjacent buildings in the wrong spot. They're actually closer. If you look at your front elevation, look how low you've got the windows on the right neighbor. They're not in reality that low. So the renderings help because they're a lot closer together. So I think if you could, by the time you put this before the full commission, if you could adjust those elevations to correct those window heights, because I do think the commission will pay attention to the adjacent fabric.
Sure.
So, Rich, a couple times now you've mentioned if you go higher, you'll need a second stair.
Well,
We're not asking for another story. Actually, I do not want another story. What we're saying is the floor to floors should get taller.
Now, my whole point is putting more steps putting more steps into the stair tower.
I see. So the footprint of the stair needs to get bigger.
Yeah.
So it's not an actual increase in the number of stairs, it's the number of steps.
Steps, yes.
I looked at your plans though, and to just take the first floor and elevate it, you have space to do that. It shows up
just
right
look at
here
the
in the
section.
section.
Yeah, I believe.
You've got run to work with there. And I think that's really all that we're suggesting in that regard. So I've got a couple other questions. First of all, there are some details later on in the set, and I see a parapet where you have the siding. I do not see a detail of the parapet at the front of the building. Is that somewhere that I'm just missing?
Of the cornice parapet?
Yes.
I didn't put the detail in, but I can do that. Yeah.
Please, that's probably after the window details, the next most important one.
It's a step. It's all brick, step cornice. I'll put that in for the commission for sure.
And then you have side elevations shown, but isn't this
it's
right on the property line?
Yeah, the side elevations are for the future permit drawings where it would say the fire rating on the wall. That's all.
Okay, because they look like they are elevations per se, but
yeah, it's a side elevation. If you take the building off, I have to have a rated wall, and I would just label it there during the building permit phase.
Okay. Now you will have exposed wall on the west side, I guess.
All amount of west side.
Where it's coming up above the adjacent building.
Yeah.
So what is that material?
I always propose it's called Beaujolais color. The color is Beaujolais. It's a red that looks like the rum raisin brick. That's a cement board.
So it's a cement board. So how deep back does the brick go?
I like to turn the brick back at least a full brick. I have to look at the condition and see what I can get without being over the neighboring property, and that's the biggest problem with that. I would think that it is just a brick facade.
A brick facade.
Yeah.
Because there's no note whatsoever about what's happening there. So this is a gap in the documentation that needs to be addressed. And I can't approve this without knowing what's going there, because I mean the side walls have a presence from the street, and what we always want to avoid is the wallpaper of brick look on these buildings.
Yeah, no, I know. It is
So-
difficult to get brick to turn and be the sidewall. Because the depth of the brick, you really don't want it hanging over the property line. So essentially the wall then has to be set in 4 inches and be supported to hold the brick up over the neighboring building.
You could also take a look at the use of an adhered veneer brick.
I can do that. I don't mind that at all.
With this discussion about pulling the height of the second floor up, there is going to become a design challenge that emerges as the wall space between the storefront and the window sills increases. And I think that it's going to be an opportunity to increase the height of the transom glass above the window there, or the height of the glass. I think that you could also explore some kind of cornice or transition element between the first floor and the second floor as well.
Pull that back because of the overall look, but I can look at that again as well.
Yeah, I guess what I'm asking that you just explore that and don't just take that brick and add 2 to 3 feet of brick there, because I think it's going to get very heavy-handed at that point.
The glass will get taller. It's not going to that proportion.
Okay.
So I think that the whole thing will move up, and there will just be more glass, so that the proportion goes with the building and not just more band.
Is the darker brick a wire cut?
It's a rum raisin brick.
The top brick in your sample looks like it's a molded brick, and the bottom one looks like it's wire cut.
No, it's like it's got a finish to it.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure it's not wire cut, because those don't generally look appropriate on facades.
No, it's like it's almost like it's got like a light glazing to it, so it has a nice. It's pockmarked. It's a nice brick.
Gotcha. The other thing I would say is that it seems a bit unusual to me is can we zoom in, Alex, on the windows on the 3rd and 4th floor? I mean, I'm generally okay with the kind of cottage style that you're proposing, because it still has the kind of double hung flavor of the neighborhood. But the 3rd floor windows are smaller than the 4th floor windows, which to me seems odd. I would either make them the same as the 4th floor on the 3rd, or flip them.
That is because the I know what you're talking about, and it's because the space in between the windows, those columns get thinner as the building goes up. So yeah. I know it's a
at the cost of the window, and I think you're doing the one thing that nobody ever does and nobody ever understands, which is that things get smaller as they go up. Ceiling heights get smaller, all of these things, which is such a character of his traditional buildings, but the windows don't usually get bigger.
Around and they're like, oh my God, it happens everywhere.
So
Exactly.
I'll also note that your elevation and your rendering don't match in that regard. The window, actually, no, I guess it's a little bit. I agree with Justin that those windows are similar enough; they should be the same.
I can make that.
There's something odd going on between the elevation and the rendering, and maybe it's just a line weight thing.
I think there's another aspect of that. Sorry, Sam, before we get off this point. The vertical lines seem to jump around on the drawing, and they should all align. All of those jams going up at the far left and far right of the building
do
should
get
all align. If this was a building in the late 19th century that had a steel substructure to it, it would have these vertical stripes running up that were all in alignment. So I think it would be important for you as you do this to keep that line consistent.
understood.
The windows on floors 3 and 5, they're part of a double height space. Is that correct? The mezzanine space?
They're upper parts of mezzanine space.
So are they operable or are they fixed?
They're fixed, but they are still double hungs.
Got it.
Like you could probably get up there and open them, but nobody will.
Right.
But they have to look right. So
And I assume they're just aluminum clad.
they're vinyl clad Anderson.
I think if you make 3 look like 4, it'll strengthen your design.
Yeah.
All right.
Dan McCoubrey, I really agree with that. In fact, because there are 4 windows on both levels, they really do need to be the same because you go 3, 4, 4, 5. So I think the 2 4s should repeat each other. And I'm going to go back to Amy's comments too about the ground level, or the storefront level. I think, it's very typical in that whole area that base is quite different than the upper floors. So, and there's going to be a desire for a sound or a sign band. And so I personally think that street level, storefront level could be differentiated and not necessarily have to be part of the window rhythm that you're doing on the upper floors. So
I'm going to look at that.
So I definitely agree with raising that up. And
So-
then making that the storefront level different than the upper floors.
2 other comments. There was a comment in passing about these being vinyl clad windows. We don't like vinyl on these historic facades or historic districts. Something else, please.
No, as soon as you said that, I apologize. They are going to be Anderson E series. They will be in metal. They will be aluminum clad.
And then at the street level, you have like the brick and a rustication pattern or a coining pattern up to the height of the door, and then it goes to the standard brick above that. It's unusual, I'll say, for something with a heavy look like a coining pattern to not terminate at anything. It just kind of goes up to this other brick and stops. The whole idea with that brick is that it looks like it's supporting something and that it's got the ability to bear a weight on it. So it's kind of like a tectonic anomaly on it that it's not sitting well with my eye.
I think as you
So I think-
stretch that floor up, you're going to have some opportunity to detail this a little more and give it a little more strength. And I think, I agree with John a bit on that, is if you introduce some molding or banding or some projection of something that helps define that floor a little more, I think it'll only help strengthen all the detailing.
I will look at that.
All right. Do we have other comments from committee members? Is there public comment?
One hand is raised, David Traub.
David Traub here again, representing Save Our Sites. Want to, commend this project as exemplary infill. It certainly will serve to restore this stretch of buildings to its former nobility and will enhance the streetscape along that stretch. I do agree that the first floor could be heightened. I think that would give further nobility to the building, to the design, and serve as a base. for the stories above. Initially, I thought that the panels of textured brick were inappropriate or kind of anomalous in this context, which they are. They are anomalous. There's no example of this treatment elsewhere that I know of. But if it's done well, it perhaps will serve to differentiate the old from the new. And I certainly agree with Mr. Kluver's remark. We want to avoid the kind of the wallpaper look that might be there if it isn't detailed properly. I'd just point out that at the top of the building, the address 302. I think that's a nice touch. Maybe could be a little bigger or a little smaller or something there to enhance the design of that lettering. So thank you very much.
Well,
Thank you for your comments. Any other public comment?
No other hands are raised.
All right, then let's have a motion.
I'll make a motion of denial. Basically, I think that standard 9, we're doing a pretty good job here, but denial for just a myriad of details that we've discussed.
Yeah, I mean, I was debating whether to make a motion of approval or denial. If it was approval, it would have a laundry list of conditions. I think that if it's a motion of denial, I could second that, which would give then the full commission the ability to discuss this. I will second it, but I will add that overall it's a wonderful project and we fully support it, or I fully support it. I just think that the details are so numerous that it warrants some further discussion.
Yeah, I can't picture how all of these disparate comments are going to resolve themselves. Like there's 3 different directions it could go.
And I
That
think
was
it would be
a long-winded
important.
second on my part.
Yeah, and I think it would be important to make modifications based on the comments as you interpret them before the commission meeting.
So much you'll deny it. I like that.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Then, unless I hear otherwise, we have unanimous consent.
Aye.
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 All right, well, thank you. Now we move on to 2039 Spruce Street.
Good morning, committee members. This is Heather Hendrickson with the staff. If we could please elevate Agatha Reister and Felicia Diarra from Landmark Architectural Design, and also Yuri Jacobson, who is the owner. This application proposes to demolish a bay and a small 1-story building at the rear of the building in order to construct a 5-story addition. The application also proposes 2 roof decks and 2 pilot houses. The renovation also includes replacement of windows at the rear with vinyl windows and re-roofing of side and rear slate mansard segments with asphalt shingles designed to imitate the appearance of slate. The addition and work to the side and rear will not be visible from the public right-of-way. It is unclear how visible the front pilot house may be. It will be set back from the front parapet by about 10 feet and reach a maximum height of 10 feet. A visibility study, including a mock-up of the pilot house height, may be helpful to understand the impact on the historic building and the surrounding district. The application includes limited information about the juncture between the proposed addition and the rear of the existing L, as well as changes to the rear roof to accommodate the roof deck. A detailed demolition plan and section drawing of these areas would clarify the scope of removal of historic material. The staff recommendation for this project is denial pursuant to standards 9 and the roof's guideline.
Right. So would you like to respond to the staff's comments?
Good morning, Agatha Reister. Well, we let's address maybe the rear deck and the alteration of the roof. We are not looking to change any of the shape of the mansard. We spoke with our structural engineer to retain the envelope of the building as present and do strictly modification on the inside to accommodate for post support to keep the deck basically just gently hovering above the roof line. So there is no modification to the slope of the existing mansard. As far as the addition goes, we are keeping the lines of the lower and the upper cornice, albeit simplified, just to mimic basically the continuation of the lines. The materials, as we're listed, will be fiber cement siding, very gentle gray color. The trim pieces would be composite material, and they would be left white. We are proposing no modification to the window openings in the existing portion of the building. We're proposing some replacement. The windows are in a very poor shape, and we can provide additional details pertaining to the visibility of the pilot house and try to keep it as tight as possible. The reason why it's being called that it's maximum 10 feet, that's part of the zoning that's carrying over, but we can try to basically keep it as tight as possible using basically the code minimum for the ceiling height just to minimize the visibility of that pilot house, the front pilot and the rear pilot house as well, from any of the streets, adjacent streets or alleys. And as far as the decking goes, again, as I mentioned, we are not looking to modify so much of the slopes, existing slopes of the roof or the structure. Everything's going to be basically secondary support that's going to penetrate the roof and allow the deck to just slightly hover over the existing roof.
I was wondering, Agata, if you could respond to the staff's comments about the roof deck on the front block, which we do not permit normally. We feel like you get long views of very critical and important blocks like this one. So is it possible to have just the one deck on the rear L that both tenants can use? We're not sure how it works once you're on the inside, but the roof deck and pilot house on the main block is not something that we support in general because of its visibility from the public right away.
Understood. So the way the floor plans are set up, they're privately accessed roof decks. As far as eliminating it completely, we would like to, if possible, basically try to keep it as compact as possible to minimize the visibility, unless this was basically is going to lead to a complete denial, then we'll have to retract that. But I would like to be able to work to basically keep it as small as possible and still potentially be permissible.
I mean, what's interesting is it seems like it would be relatively straightforward to make the stair that's connecting all the units just continue up to the roof deck as a public stair. And you could actually buy yourself some floor space within that unit number 8, like not having that stair up. But I agree with Amy about the roof deck on the front portion of the building just feels out of place.
Right. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to add to that you see from that aerial photograph that there are none on that block, and that is a standard thing that we try to maintain. There may be some elsewhere, but those would have been done before we had such purview. That we'd be setting a precedent on that block, and it doesn't meet the guidelines.
Mhm. Understood.
And this is Nan Gutterman. I'm also concerned about the removal of the rear bay. While not visible from the public right away, it is historic fabric, and you're also proposing to remove part of the rear wall of that L. And I understand it's to create bedroom spaces, but I'm not sure that that's, in my mind, as one of 7 members today, that trade-off is worth it. I understand it's space for the occupants, but there's a real loss of historic fabric that I think would be very unfortunate.
Yeah, it seems like it's about maximizing every cubic inch of finished space.
But sometimes I don't know that trade-off is worth it. But I'm one of 7, so.
I think also
you're
the
there's
neighboring
2 of 7.
3 of
Because I
7.
agree.
3 of 7, because also the neighboring houses
Right.
both kind of have their original configurations with the rear bays. So this does seem to be, trying to maximize the number of.
Right. Well, it seems to be an overbuild of the property, and I guess one of the other questions is, and I don't know, and it's not our purview, regarding zoning, is can you actually go out to the rear property line?
Well, we are not going out to the rear property line. We are staying within the regulations of the zoning code. The zoning permit was approved already. This is something that I can also send to the commission, or the
Well, I mean,
architectural.
it's 2 different jurisdictions. I mean,
Understood. It was more when you
Right.
had questioned if it
No,
was
I did
allowed.
question it, right.
was, yes, it was allowed.
I still think it's
permit.
unfortunate to remove the bay. So,
The materiality, I have lots of issues with the vinyl windows
right.
all over the rear of the building, vinyl railings, plaid siding where on a multi-story bay in the back. All of those are inappropriate materials in my point of view.
The reason why we had proposed vinyl siding is because over the time, the previous owner has replaced some of the windows already. So that was really why it was proposed. The windows that are to be replaced in the front are metal clad. They're in black color, but the back, because there is already a precedent of one type, we don't want to create basically a hodgepodge trying to make something a little bit more uniform. That was the reason why they were proposed. And if the architectural board would like to see a different material on the rear of the property in lieu of the siding, we are definitely open to any suggestions.
And I have another question. Where you're proposing to remove the slate on some side roofs, is that the slate is in bad condition and needs to be replaced?
Yes, we had provided several photographs of the condition of the slate. We are not proposing to remove anything from the front that is staying, and it will be whatever is loose will be repaired. But at the side of the property, we were proposing to replace it. There's numerous areas where the slate, actually the movement of the slate has caused a lot of the rot to the dormers. And a lot of the elements are loosened up or just patched with tar. So that's why we were proposing
I
to
mean,
replace it.
the roof deck, I think one of the other panelists said this seems like a very easy solution if you just continue the center stair up and it just becomes a shared deck. The rear windows for a project this size, in my opinion, you could easily do like the sash replacement kit option for probably similar cost than you can vinyl these days. And it's candidly much easier. So that would solve that issue. These mansard roofs, I mean, it seems like every month we kind of deal with them. The big concern for me, having dealt with so many of them, it isn't even the shingles themselves, it's how you treat what's underneath and the gutter systems. And I think that should be looked at, very closely on this and other applications, frankly, because that to me, just as much as the materiality of the shingle, whether it's slate or asphalt or what have you, or a composite product, it's the cornices to me that really interact with them and change the look of the building, and I think that should be dealt with here as well.
We are not looking to remove the cornice as it's present. The flashing and any tarp will be ran basically up the wall, and then the shingle will clad over it just like it does for the slate. We proposed the shingle, the asphaltic shingle, as in the past. It was a material that was approved by the commission. That's why it was also proposed. So.
In the neighborhood, when it is generally approved, to my memory, it's more of the Grand Manor kind of asphalt shingle, which has the shadow lines to it, and it's a higher grade asphalt.
And again, this particular shingle was approved in the past, but if there is a different asphalt shingle that the board would like to see, we are definitely open to suggestions. We definitely can deviate what was proposed in here.
The other thing, you're changing some of the window size styles. You're taking kind of Gothic windows and making them square windows. Is that right?
Well, we're keeping the arch of the brick and the opening as it is, but we are proposing to install a casement window inside that opening, so it's operable. Yes, and it's minimizing. We felt that it is the reason why you don't have very good photographs of that courtyard is because it's so highly invisible, and when you actually, we can only give you basically small vignettes of it because the view is really minimized, and as well the large fire escape that is there installed, it blocks a lot of the views. We felt that this was not inappropriate to propose a different window given the lack of visibility. And these particular windows actually on the other facade are completely blocked off. A lot of them are just basically, they have plywood with painted over, plywood that is just painted over black. So we just didn't feel like it was inappropriate.
But you're actually reducing the amount of light coming into the spaces behind these windows because you're filling in the arch part of the opening.
So may I ask if the board would be open to basically providing a two-piece window in that element where we would have a transom in the peak of the opening and the operable window beneath that?
I would rather see a two-part window than made out of something other than vinyl rather than composite infill, which I think would be but again, I am one of 7 people reviewing this application. So what I'm saying does not necessarily is the opinion of the entire committee.
Well, while we're on this image, Heather, could you zoom into the window or to the door below that bay? So you're turning a window into a door.
Yes.
But the door doesn't fill the opening?
The door doesn't fill the opening.
It looks like there's a panel above it or something?
Yes, we matched basically. We did not remove the header from that in order not to drop it. So this, yes, the door.
So you're using a stock door size in a custom opening?
Yes, and on this facade, yes, that's what we are proposing. Unless this, you find this very inappropriate, then we will regroup.
It just feels to me overall that you're taking the simplest, least expensive, fastest option for every solution here. And I think that a house of this character in this district deserves better. And I'm just one of 7, but that's my personal opinion.
Again, certain approaches that we had taken is due to the lack of visibility from from other elements, and the fact that
But
the
lack of
staircase
disability, I'm going to
visibility.
interrupt for a second. Lack
Yes.
of visibility should not be a reason to cheapen the historic fabric of this building and to insert a material that's not going to withstand the test of time.
I mean, these are luxury properties, high-end.
These are not going for $25,000. I'm sure they're going for $500,000 or more. And I would want to make sure that things are not made out of plastic or stock materials, and that you end up with additional filler pieces that have to be maintained. I think the budget for doing the replacements needs to be rethought.
Okay.
May I say something?
Sure.
How you doing? My name is Yuri Jacobson.
Right.
So that alley over there is all closed off to the public. It's a very small alley, and there's nothing really historic back there in that alley. And I understand the building's completely historic, and we're trying to make it as historic as possible, but pretty much everything in that alley is not really historic.
The windows look original. The windows that is being proposed to make an operable casement with an insert of a composite patch, per the photograph shown on EX. Oh, 1 second. What sheet am I on? Look original. So I guess I would question and support what Sam said earlier, is look at replacing sashes, but don't necessarily replace something with vinyl. And they actually currently have grills in front of them. Yeah. And as far as Justin said regarding the stock door, I mean, I would think somebody would want a high quality door, given that as I said before, I'm sure these apartments or studios or condos or whatever are not inexpensive. So I just think, I understand cost of materials, I understand the issue of visibility, but I think you need to look at all of this as an investment in this building that's been here for probably 150 years or more.
Yes, but we're talking about the back of the building, which is an alley.
I understand you're talking. I understand it is not visible. I am one of 7 people reviewing this application. I don't know the cost of what these objects are within your whole budget. I understand that it's not visible, and my opinion is, as I've said before, 1 of 7. But I think you need to rethink what you're investing. As 1 of 7 people reviewing this application, I think you need to rethink what you're investing in this corner of the building for the people who are going to be purchasing or renting these apartments or condos or whatever they are. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I appreciate those comments, but I would also say I don't think it's our jurisdiction, and I don't mean to speak out of turn, over what these potential people that are spending, a fair amount of money on the units. I think the point here is with some tweaks that the developer can get for very similar dollars, an aesthetic and a product that's more in line with what with what the historical commission would want. Case in point being these windows. Again, sash replacement kits could solve this problem, and be historically accurate. Better material choices on the back, and I think there's, as we spoke about, a simple solution for the roof deck. But
I understand what you guys are saying, but they already pretty much, the building before, everybody changed it to vinyl back there, and pretty much if you look at the pictures of all the rest of the houses back there are pretty much vinyl and not historically treated, because it's an alley that's totally not invisible, and we're keeping the whole building in the front totally historic. and everything the way it's supposed to be. But the problem is everything in that alley has totally been changed for years between all the houses over there. If you look at the pictures that there's over there, you can see how everything has been changed and not historically changed.
May have
Dan
been done
McCubry,
prior to designation
yeah.
and other things.
Well, I do have to point out that we do allow for, we'll say, windows of less quality on rears and sides that are not visible. And that often goes against the standards, which suggest that these windows should really be replaced in kind. So there's a dilemma there. But my biggest concerns, I think, are the extension to the rear that just sort of alters the basic form and character of the rear L and demolishes this significant piece of the upper floors of the wing.
I also want to say that the house, the back is going to be the same, extended the same as the house that's next door to it, if you could see in the back picture.
It looked to me that, at least in the drawings, that the original bays exist on both neighboring houses.
I don't think it's a function of the addition as much as the materiality. Is that, Dan? You know, what?
Well, it's both. I think removing the bay.
We're willing to upgrade the material if you guys insist. No problem.
And then
we're also removing a two-story bay that is original to the house.
Right. And I guess, stepping down, I would say that the greatest, another concern there is just running that up and crashing into the mansard roof and how that's detailed. That typically a wing did not sort of come in and intersect the mansard in that fashion.
If we were to propose a mansard basically extension, we weren't sure how to handle basically the original to the addition, because sometimes when we try to mimic things, it's not something that the board desires because it basically fools potentially somebody that is looking. It's like, was this part of the past? But would that be a better approach if we were to basically continue the sloped roof onto the addition, or that would be more inappropriate, basically considering that we're extending something that wasn't there in the past?
Yeah. Well, I as I said, I object to the removal of the bay and the alterations to their rear wing in general. But I think the extending it up the full, whatever it is, 1, 2, 5 stories makes it even less palatable. If it only went up 1, 2, 4 stories, let's say, and connected with the main cornice, that would be a little less objectionable, but to me still represents removing a significant character defining feature of the house.
We just extended it similar to another house that's back there.
So if you look at 2035, there is an exhibit. There is the exhibit on page P1, photograph F.
It was very hard to follow the photographs.
Yes, I apologize. That's why I'm trying to navigate to make it as easy as possible for you. But do you see the extension that was basically handled on this particular building? How would you feel if we were to extend majority of it, maybe keep the top floor, but extend the floors beneath that to the level and ending it with a bay that is similar to this.
You're
But carrying
suggesting
it one floor higher. We're trying to basically not to we're trying to find a ground that is satisfactory to the commission and also to meet our developers' needs.
Agata, I'm just trying to understand what you're saying. You're saying you'd be willing, I think, to do a 4-story addition with the bay on the end, on the alley side, and it would not extend to the 5th floor where you have a mansard.
We would like to extend it to the 5th floor, but if this basically grants a complete denial, that we're trying to find a common ground where we can meet somewhere that meets the standards, and then also basically meets the needs of the developer.
We have approved people doing that. Sometimes they'll turn the 5th floor into a deck and not not a full addition. But again, we'd have to see it drawn and understand how it works. But that sounds more palatable.
Yeah, I agree that would be certainly preferable to what is currently shown.
And again, you're seeing brick back here. You're not seeing siding that high.
The brick, I would have to have a further discussion with our client. I do not want to basically make these statements here on record without having a discussion with him.
I think our preferred material would be brick, just for the record.
Mm-hmm. And as far as the windows, if we were for the replacement windows, if a sash replacement wouldn't be something that would be entertained, would just a simple metal clad window be approvable by you? And also, as far as the grills, front and back, those Gothic style windows, they are 2/2. There are no other windows on this facade that would be 2/2. Is there a recommendation from you for the front and the back windows? And again, some of the windows had been replaced already. I'm not sure if our client would be looking to replace them. So you will see some of the windows staying in vinyl as existing, and some basically being whatever needs to be replaced would be in the approved by the board material.
Well, I would say a metal clad would certainly be preferable to vinyl.
And as far as the 2/2 in that Gothic style window, because what we would be proposing more would be a casement window with a transom, with fixed transom up top, rather than going into a double hung like that little windows are showing right now. I'm not sure if you would like to pull up the photograph of that window again.
So the 2/2 are just at the ground level, right? Everywhere else it's 1/1. I guess there's 4. Like when I look at the side elevation, I see 3 windows that are 2/2.
I think they're 2/2. Right? Photo C.
Photo C, yeah. So I can't
mean,
see
is there a
that.
reason that just can't stay a double hung?
If it stays double hung, do you require for it to stay 2/2 when there is not a single window on the left on the rest of the facade that is a 2/2?
But are the windows in unfortunate condition that they can't be just maintained? That they need to be replaced? Even if you made them fixed?
Mm-hmm.
With the storm window?
What?
I said with the storm window.
Yeah, I mean, I think to some degree, unless you're saying that the material of the windows is failing, we're not saying you have to replace everything, but we are commenting on the materials you've elected to replace things with.
Understood.
So if these windows are in good shape, but the fact that they're single pane, you could go with an interior storm, you could fix them in place and get rid of the grills if you wanted to do that. I don't know that you need, I don't know what the intent is for these windows.
They're usually falling in small spaces, so yes, they could be potentially repaired and
Right.
reused.
I would think that would be some savings.
All right, do we have other, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I think we've commented on this, and I think my suggestion would be that we go for public comment and we go for a motion, so.
So can I just ask you if there are any windows that are beyond repair, let's say, and they have to be replaced, is just a simple 1/1 acceptable by the board, or they would be proposed as 2/2? We do have the 2 original windows on the first floor, the one that is getting modified to a door. The other window was a 2/2. I just would like to know what you would like to see. And also for the front, they're just 1/1, but so are all other windows on the block. Is that acceptable as well? If they were to be replaced. And some of them are actually vinyl windows on that facade, so they most likely will get replaced.
I think ideally, as windows get replaced, they would be being replaced with something that is more consistent with what it was there historically.
We just don't know what it was. That's why I'm asking.
But the 2/2, I think, is more in keeping than the 1/1.
Well,
For the front facade, or both?
plenty of neighbors too that you could look at and see what they have on their houses. We
It's
usually
actually
try.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
We usually try to match the historic detailing of what would have been there or the look of what would have been there. And, if it doesn't exist in your own building, chances are it does on a neighbor. Or maybe there's an old photo or something. And if there is no evidence, then the staff can discuss that with you.
Right, that if you look at the front facades, primarily they're 1/1. That's why we're asking if we are proposing a replacement, if the historic photos are indicating it's a 2/2. If we could be provided with that information, that would be very helpful for generating schedules.
I'm sure the staff could provide their records to you.
Thank you.
To help guide that. And along that line too, they'll also be paying attention to how they're detailed, what the frame looks like and all of that other stuff.
Yes,
and they can guide you through that process.
All right, do we have other comments? Is there public comment?
I'd just like to know about the pilot house again. Because it's for 2 sides of the building and it's a very big roof.
I think that the opinion expressed pretty consistently is that the deck and pilot house on the main block of this house is not something that we typically approve. We approve decks on the rear wings of the main block.
So
If you can also see the house next door, is it next door, the 2 doors over? Because they have a very big pilot house. If you see it, it's hard to see in the picture. Yeah.
So it's not the fact that it's a pilot house and it's a large deck. It's the fact that what is proposed is in the front portion. So
Yes.
My question is, if we were to locate the pilot house on the narrower portion of the building, you are still opposed to the deck being on the main portion. Is that correct statement?
That is the typical approach from the roof guidelines. say that the deck should not be on the main block of the house, but on the rear wings. There are exceptions when there is no rear wing but in this case, there's clearly a rear wing, and the decks as shown occupy a huge portion of all of the roof.
And the deck the pilot house you referenced may have pre-existed the designation of this part of the city.
All right, are we ready for public comment then?
No hands are raised.
All right, then let's have a motion.
Go ahead, John.
I was gonna say, I'll make a motion of denial pursuant to standards 9 in the roofs guideline.
I'll second.
All right, then, unless I hear otherwise, we have unanimous consent.
Aye.
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 All right, well, thank you. Right now we'll move on to 1500 to 1510 North Broad Street.
Good
Dan?
morning, everyone.
I believe Amy Stein will be recusing.
And Allison Lukacek will also be recusing.
Lukacek will also be recusing.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. There are a few members of the applicant team, who can raise their hand to be elevated. We have Martin, Valerie, Aisha, and 2 Katies. I believe Katie Bro will lead the discussion and then sort of direct to her colleagues as necessary. And I will read a brief overview. This application proposes extensive rehabilitation and restoration of the Alfred Burke Mansion and its associated 1954 addition, as well as the conservatory at the rear of the property at 1500 to 1510 North Broad Street. The buildings have been vacant for many years and have undergone several stabilization projects. The scope of work for the main building includes repairs and patching of masonry, roof and window replacement, and restoration of the front door. A new roof and window replacement, restoration of the front door. A new vestibule is proposed at the rear between the mansion and its addition. The application proposes a partial restoration of the balustrade along the perimeter wall, using surviving balusters to restore the portion in front of the mansion and installing a metal picket fence between limestone piers on the historic granite base for other portions of the site. The project proposes the addition of accessibility ramps and site work to replace the parking lot with a lawn which mediates the grade change between the mansion and the conservatory. The conservatory would also receive masonry repair and restoration, as well as a new roof. The elevation facing the mansion would feature large windows and French doors, evoking its historic greenhouse appearance, whereas the elevations along Jefferson and Carlisle streets, as well as facing north, would largely retain their current appearance with some small non-historic openings infilled. The staff recommendation is approval pursuant to standards 9 and 10.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Ted, thank you so much for the staff's review of our project and for your recommendation for approval this morning. We really appreciate it. Our team is really enthusiastic to be here today to discuss the preservation and renewal of Burke Mansion. It's been years in the making, and Temple University is really committed to preserving and repurposing it as a community engagement center. I'm Katie Bro. I'm a partner at MGA Partners Architects, and we are the lead design firm for the project, and I will be hosting our conversation today. Joining me are 2 key individuals from Temple University, as well as 2 design team members as well. And thank you for elevating them into our group. They include Martin Droz, AIA. He's a Senior Associate Vice President of Planning, Design, and Construction at Temple University. We also have Valerie Harrison. She's Vice President of Community Impact and Engagement at Temple University. My colleague, Aisha Branham, an associate here at MGA Partners Architects, and Katie Brown, who is Senior Architectural Conservator with Building Conservation Associates. I just want to say this is a really comprehensive project, and we know you will have a lot of comments and questions from the committee and perhaps also some comments from the community. So we intend to keep our responses concise so that we can move through this appropriately. We'd like to start with a brief response from Temple University, from Martin Droz and Valerie Harrison, and then a response from MGA.
Thank you, Katie. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to present. I'm here on behalf of Temple University as the owner's representative for the Burke Mansion project. The Burke Mansion was constructed in 1907 and is one of the last remaining residences along North Broad Street. It was acquired by Temple in 1971, and at that time, the building housed programs for the School of Administration and also served as a daycare facility until a fire in 1993 led to its vacancy. There have been efforts over the years to restore the building, and we are encouraged that those efforts are now coming to fruition with a path forward to fully restore and reactivate this important historic asset. Our intent is to preserve the building while repositioning it as a community engagement center, one that strengthens Temple's connection to the surrounding neighborhood and supports broader public-facing initiatives. The project aligns directly with Temple's strategic plan, Forward with Purpose, and with ongoing investments along the North Broad Street Innovation Corridor. These efforts are focused on enhancing the public realm, strengthening community partnerships, and activating key sites in a way that benefits both the university and the surrounding community. For this project, we're committed to maintaining the defining historic features of the building while making necessary upgrades for accessibility, life safety, and long-term functionality. This is consistent with Temple's broader track record of preservation across campus, including projects such as the Baptist Temple, Sullivan Hall, 1810 Leocourse Walk, Barrack Hall, Schusterman Hall, Carner Hall, and Conwell Hall. Of great significance is that this project was approved by Temple's Board of Trustees last week, and it's a reflection of our strong institutional commitment to both the building and its long-term role within the corridor. So in closing, we see this as an opportunity to preserve a significant historic asset while reinvesting in North Broad Street in a way that is thoughtful, intentional, and aligned with both institutional and community priorities. And with that, I'd like to pass it along to my colleague Valerie to talk about some of the programs that are anticipated for the site.
I'm sorry, we have 20 minutes for this. How much more prepared comments are there?
I can do mine in a minute or 2 minutes at the most. And I think that will conclude the prepared comments.
Okay.
From Temple side. Again, I'll do this in a minute, fast and in a hurry. Again, my name is Valerie Harrison.
Actually, I'm sorry, we have 40 minutes, just so that's clear.
Oh, we do? Well.
Yes.
I'll speak slower,
sorry.
John. Okay. Okay. Again, my name is Valerie Harrison. I serve as Temple's Vice President for Community Impact and Civic Engagement. As my colleague Martin Droz mentioned, Temple acquired Burke Mansion in the early 70s. And throughout the decades that followed, we offered many programs and services, primarily through our Center for Social Policy and Community Development, which was a center of our School of Social Work or Social Administration, as we called it. These programs included community education courses, job training, violence prevention training, and a child care center. This work actually formed the foundation for the university's current community engagement programs and services, which over the decades have grown substantially and are now scattered across campus. We see the mansion as returning to a vibrant, flexible, multi-use community hub to serve our North Philadelphia residents more effectively. Because of its location and actually its grandeur and majesty, it will be the centerpiece of the university's community engagement initiatives, and it is a visible demonstration of the university's commitment to opportunity creation for our neighbors. Burke will house the university's Community Gateway, which opened in 2004. It is a team of really caseworkers case managers, if you will, who connect residents and neighbors to over 300 Temple programs. It functions a bit differently from the 1970s version, of course, because of technology. There were no computers back then, but we now envision an open access computer lab with digital mentoring by Temple students helping local seniors, a production studio for neighborhood youth to learn skills and to express their creativity. There is flexible space, as you will see. We believe this allows for more participation by our students and faculty and staff. For example, our law students and law faculty have asked to host legal clinics periodically in the mansion. Our librarians want to host reading circles for neighborhood children. Our neighbors have also helped us to envision uses for the open spaces, for the conservatory, and for the lawn space, for film screenings, for yoga, for line dancing, for bingo, and for other cultural activities. And so, in conclusion, through this project, we believe Temple can reaffirm its commitment to historic preservation, to making an impact through opportunity creation, and to contributing in a very positive way to the health and well-being of our local community. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Valerie. So lastly, we just wanted to share, we take this project very seriously and understand the significance of it. It's on the local and national registrar. It's a rehabilitation project that we feel meets the Secretary of Interior guidelines. We're prioritizing preservation of the exterior, along with safety, accessibility, and code compliance. The building, as Martin has mentioned, was vacant for decades, so there's a lot to accomplish relative to structural repairs, full infrastructure replacement, and environmental remediation. And though we will lose much of the interior due to thermal conditions and moisture infiltration, as Valerie mentioned, we're really trying to make this into a hub for the community. Our project right now, we're currently in the design development phase. So we're out there doing probes and collecting more information that will inform some of our final detailing. And we're glad to review that with the staff as we continue in our development. So with that, we'd like to open it up to questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you for a very comprehensive submission. You gave us a lot of material to chew on here. So I may have missed this in all of the material. Where can I find a detail of this addition that's being proposed for the rear of the mansion, like a section detail or a wall section or something that shows how it connects back to the mansion?
Sure. Well, we have an elevation that is on page 30.
Yep.
And then Aisha, maybe tell me another section that you might be thinking of.
We did not yet provide a building section for it. As Katie mentioned, we just finished our schematic design phase. What we did show and what we did try to communicate is that the addition is set back and avoids obscuring the cornice of the 1909 mansion. So that is shown in plan, but we were not able to provide a wall section as of yet.
Okay. That's going to be an important detail to think about how that roof to wall transition occurs. You know, when you're, especially how it connects back to the original mansion as opposed to that addition, you know, because you're going to want flashing that go up and things like that. So how all that works is.
If you, if I might add, you could look at the plan that is on page 15, because one of the things that we're trying to do is hold back and separate the addition from the mansion portion in particular. As Aisha mentioned, we'd like the cornice to overlap and allow the addition to sit free of that. It also, from an elevation, the roof of that sits a bit lower than the two adjoining buildings.
And all of those will help. Although I do question the fact that that addition actually projects beyond at, you know, the second and third floor levels. Why is that projecting beyond the rear facade of the mansion as opposed to sort of being in aligned with the first floor level?
Sure.
And
And that's
You know,
that's
because
certainly
the typical preservation technique when you have a connecting element like this is to push it behind the primary facade.
understood. And this is definitely something that as we develop this, we can do a little bit further. The 1954 mansion itself protrudes a bit from the mansion, so they're not in perfect alignment with each other as it is right now. And if you can see that from the plans.
Right. But you're then exacerbating it with this new addition.
We can study flushing out that addition. I will say that we did look at a much larger addition to create even better accessibility and connectivity, and quickly put that aside due to its impacts on the existing two buildings. And so this
I can
was
appreciate that, definitely.
So we did study and try to make it minimal. As Katie mentioned, we were trying to basically adjudicate the two architectural styles. And so by having that glassy addition with just a slight projection against the international style addition, we thought was a way to manage a imperfectly aligned set of two buildings. But we can study flushing it out.
Well, I think that instead of making it flush, I would suggest that it recess. And when you look at this plan, you have a little 2-seat table in there that I'm not quite sure how well used that would be. But if you were to just take the line where the doors are at the entry level and just extend that up, I think that would be a sufficient setback to satisfy the concern I raise. And, you know, I'm one opinion here, but that was just something that caught my eye.
So you're
another.
Go ahead, John.
So I didn't want to stop conversation on that piece, but I have another question.
Please.
The infill at the conservatory, not the infill, but where you're replacing the doors, there's a little bit of wall above, and it looks like at the jams, so that you get the sense of them being new doors within a wall that's set between the columns, as opposed to a kind of a glass system set between the columns. And I couldn't quite tell from the historic photos, but it looked like that was more of the approach originally. I mean, when I look at it's PDF page 3, that historic photo there, like you get that sense of glass from column to column, from floor to the underside of the entablature. So I feel that it would be just delightful if that kind of approach could be reconstructed with this infill. And if I'm just curious if there was a specific reason why that could not be done.
Yeah, if you go to page 43, I think it would be worth looking at that. So there's some pretty significant modifications in order to reinforce the framing of the roof that happens at those openings. So we right now are taking the windows and those doors up as high as possible, but you can see we're kind of up against structural reinforcement of the roofing, and also being able to set in a gutter system at the perimeter.
What about at the jams?
The jams are intended to go as wide as they can up to the column bases.
Because again, when I look at that historic photo, it doesn't have that feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I even wonder, and sorry, I keep jumping from page 3 to page 43. It takes a little bit of scrolling to do. But because I can't quite see what the glass pattern is historically, but I wonder if there isn't a way to, push that structural beam that you mentioned is necessary back kind of behind the plane of the storefront, so that the storefront could continue up with like a spandrel glass or reflective glass or something that again gave it that feel of there being glass column to column, floor to entablature.
Yeah, I think
We
that
did.
historic photo is just incredible. I mean, that's a really unique, design. And I think, you're going somewhat in that direction by glazing so much of that wall. But I think if you would go a little further and try to replicate much of what that looked like, I think that would be a wonderful feature for that building. I mean, it's such a character defining piece of what that building was that's been lost. Bringing that back in some way would be remarkable.
It would be lovely to do that. I think, Aisha, maybe you want to speak a little bit to some of the history of the stabilization for the conservatory, because things have, in prior stabilization projects, there has been already a good amount of modification to the building.
Yes. So I just want to start off and say we agree. If money were no issue, we would absolutely return to full-size thermally broken glass plates, but it fell well outside of the budget of Temple. In addition, the modifications that are shown from the 1970 already show the CMU infill and show that CMU infill that now currently supports the roof. So unfortunately, that plate glass was lost well before the building was designated as historic. And so through our design efforts and managing the budget as best we can and allocating resources in a way that we felt was responsible and appropriate, we are trying to recall as much of that historical character from 1909, we believe, or 1910 when that conservatory was built, but unfortunately it was altered, and we're not able to easily undo that within the constraints of the budget.
So when the roof was actually replaced long ago, and the roof, the framing is actually sitting down lower at that head condition, and it's sitting on CMU jambs, which is what we're kind of up against when we're making the window openings as wide as possible. That's the masonry jambs that they're sitting on.
And that was done, unfortunately, prior to the 1970 historic designation.
So if we sort of accept the starting point of like the jambs in the head, is there a reason that you have created this rhythm of windows and doors on the facade as opposed to having a series of, and they don't necessarily even have to be doors, but to have all of the openings extend down to the floor? Again, it's more of a reconstruction of the concept of what was there. Because the thing that strikes you when you look at a historic photo is sort of the consistency of that facade treatment across there. And by putting punch door openings and punched windows, you're really changing the nature of what that is and what that was. Could we, if we have to accept the structural realities of these other components that I was asking about, could the window sills at least go away at those and the opening be extended down to the ground?
John, you're specifically pointing out the projecting bays, because we're looking at doing all of the center windows, expanding all of those. You're asking, should all of the center windows extend all the way down?
I'm talking about the items that are marked 9 and 10.
Yeah.
Can those be more like 1?
So the bays that are designated as 1 is where we're adding doors.
Right.
And actually extending those down to the ground so that you can walk out of the building. So the ones that say 9 are retaining the sill.
But they're retaining the sill of a later intervention. That's not the character of the original. I'm trying to get this conservatory. I mean, a conservatory always has a sort of has a connotation of being something that's very open. So I'm trying to get this facade to feel as open and inviting and delightful as possible. So I've tried going up, I've been blocked. I've tried going left and right, I've been blocked. Well, can I at least go down? Because the other thing, I look at this elevation and like the tops of the doors or slightly higher than the tops of the windows. So you've got a little jumping going on there. Like I'd love, take the two end bays as their own thing and the center bay as its own thing, but between them, the 4 bays on each side, I feel should be completely identical and have a consistency that is, again, reminiscent of the original.
So can I just ask, so right now we have the center bay, which is the main door in. So that's an accessible entry that comes across from the mansion. And then we had, in order to create symmetry, we had set up 2 sets of doors. These are doors that basically open out into the patio so you can have events that spill out.
Sounds delightful.
Those, we extended the sills, we removed some historic fabric, removed the sills so that we could extend those down. And we were thinking that we should retain as much fabric as we could, which is why we were maintaining the sills on the other
I would argue
window
that
bays.
I would argue that the fabric you are maintaining there is of lesser historic quality. It's historic in the sense of it was done in the past. But when you go back to that original image, there were never sills there. Again, so I'm skipping over this mid-century part. I'm looking back at the original and trying to say, how do we reconstruct that original?
If you look at that historic photo, it's like glass column, glass column, glass column. And I think what John and I'm also sharing the same feeling is that get it back. It's not going to match. It's not going to be the same detail, but give as much of that flavor as original, because now we're creating a totally new condition. I look at that historic photo and it's remarkable. And I think that, doing whatever we can to get back that feeling in a way that works for budget and everything else, is the goal, especially in those ends. I don't know if it's possible to make those 2 little double hungs into full glass there in some way, even if it is doors, but they're fixed or something. I don't know, but that photo is so unique, and it's a really special piece of architecture on this site. And I think that's what we're reacting to.
Just to add a little bit of context, if we're able to zoom into that historic photo, which we also love, and thank our BCA teammates who found that in the archives. If you zoom into the conservatory photo, the limestone sill in question is actually existing. So that was part of the 1909 conservatory. So what we did was actually remove that limestone sill at those doors only. So that was the original fabric. So I don't know if we're able to zoom in on that. But
unfortunately, I can't zoom into the PDF.
Got it.
But I do see that there's a.
Oh, I see that now.
It's completely original, and it was original to the design. What we're doing is actually removing the sill, which we don't love, but we need to create an equitable space. This is a public-facing facility, so it's not that we disagree. It's just we're clarifying that that was part of the original intent and the original design when it was a conservatory, were these pretty lovely monolithic limestone sills.
So those new doors, those new doors that you're putting in are serving, they're not egress, they're more function, or are they both?
They're both. So one of those doors, if we're able to go to a floor plan, must be an egress door with our beautiful Panic hardware that we have experience in making very seamless and as minimal as possible. But because that room is divisible, so it's a large multi-purpose space, but there is an operable partition. That room serves over 49 people. It needs 2 exits. So one of those doors will have to be a code required egress door. I should say one pair of those doors will be a code required egress door.
Shifting gears a little, still talking about windows, but going back to the main building. Am I correct that you're replacing all of the windows with aluminum windows?
Yes.
Not aluminum clad?
Correct. Aluminum.
What's the driver for that? Because they're currently all wood windows now, right?
In the mansion proper, so in the 1909 mansion, they are wood and they're pretty fantastic, but they're completely deteriorated. We have some photos showing some of those existing conditions where they are structurally compromised and can't be restored. So it was the request of the university, which we support, to provide a durable and maintainable solution that didn't have to be repainted every, 8 to 10 years or so. So we are recommending thermally broken, customized Graham as the basis of design, but aluminum windows in all locations.
Yeah. So we are trying to balance the historic character with long-term performance. So we want to take advantage of, the energy performance of a thermally broken window. We've also done this elsewhere on campus pretty successfully, including the Baptist Temple, and Conwell and Carnell Halls. So we made a decision to do that here as well.
But you could still have a long-term high quality window that's a wood on the interior and aluminum on the exterior. I mean, it's not like you're exposing the inside to the elements. I mean, it appears that you're gutting the entire interior of this building, which I understand the deterioration exists, but it's a completely contemporary alteration that I think is not in keeping with the Secretary of the Interior standards. I mean, if you're going to the trouble to make a custom exterior profile, then what's the harm of the real thing on the inside?
So again, looking at long-term maintenance, having to repaint them every so often, we would defer to the lower maintenance.
That seems to me out of character, and it seems extreme to me.
I
But
think
again,
just
I'm one
a
of
remar-
7.
Just a reminder that the interior is out of our purview,
Yeah, but it's a window in the building.
but it's going to have aluminum on the outside. Whether it's aluminum clad or aluminum window, it'll be aluminum.
Well, I disagree with that.
I had one question about the landscape alteration along Jefferson Street, the slope up. And in the one rendering, it shows what looks, not that one. Not that one. It seems to
Accessible
show
entrance
a
page.
secondary wall within.
Try page 29.
There we go. I'm wondering what that secondary line is. Is that another wall inside, or is that just a graded slope?
It's really a graded slope. I think we're, in the midst of developing it. We need to raise the grade between 3 and 5 feet from the street level. And are trying to maintain the perimeter fence line and keep that in place.
I guess I would suggest options that don't have a secondary wall line in there, that it just looks like a landscaped slope.
Basically creating a ha-ha.
Yeah. And I understand the dilemma, jumping back to the conservatory for a second. I'm wondering if, actually that little image there you have up in the upper right, it looks there as if the recessed parts are all a somewhat darker color, which might be a way to make it, look more like an infill, but not have sort of limestone colored stucco. If that color was all perhaps the color of the window frames, it might all recede. I think that might help.
That is our intent.
Yeah, that's a great point, Dan. And I'll also note that the rendering appears to show like a higher bottom rail on the door that doesn't show up on the elevation.
Correct, and that's our miss, so we can adjust that.
Well, but I'm wondering, and I don't know how high up this sill comes, but if that if the door bottom rail comes up higher and kind of is an extension of that old sill line, so that basically
Agreed.
your
I think
glass has a consistent bottom edge to it, if that might help address some of the concern that I had.
And
I
that
think
is what we
that's a
are
great point.
agreed. That's what we're showing. You are correct. We are some mess in our elevations because we also are intending to have all of the tops of the windows and doors aligned. So you're seeing some graphic errors, but the intent is that we were trying to create that uniformity with the recessive color and then also with the custom bottom rails of those doors. The sill, because the floor level of the conservatory is lower, is roughly 18 inches tall. So it is a unique and customized door. But we were trying to, again, prioritize the uniformity of the appearance.
18 inches. That might, I mean, draw it up and see. It might look a little ungainly at that height. I think use your judgment on that one. I could go either way.
We might also have ADA issues, so we need to study that with the 18-inch tall bottom rail.
Well, the 18-inch might actually help you because the short bottom rails are actually where you get into trouble with ADA. Can we talk a little bit about the grading? And Dan started down this road in the landscape in that area between the mansion and the conservatory. Because again, when you look at the historic photo, I mean, one of the great characteristics is kind of the way that it steps up and leads up to it, which, you know, I understand the accessibility challenge that you're facing here. This is probably not the image. Which image was it that I was looking at? And how is this lawn area going to be used? It's so like, are there like event tents going in here or just general like cocktail party? Or can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure,
Yeah.
Valerie, do you want to take that one on?
Yes, actually a combination. We've been meeting with neighbors and talking about potential uses. So perhaps tents for outdoor music and cultural activities, and events like that that they would be free to use for gatherings. So it probably would be a combination, again, depending on whether it's open or use of tents.
Okay, so you really do need a flat area there then.
Yes, for
So,
seating. Yes.
so when I look at page 12, the proposed plan, can you help me understand the grading that's involved? So coming out of the back door of the mansion, you're at one elevation and there's a terrace there. Then there's new terraces being built in front of the conservatory. What is the change in grade there? Or is there no change in grade?
So between the mansion proper and the conservatory, it's 9 inches. So the ground floor of the mansion is 9 inches lower than the ground floor of the conservatory. However, the existing grade of the parking lot, which we are proposing to infill, was between 3 and 5 feet below both of those elevations. So our fill tries to mediate that by infilling it and removing the need for, 120 feet of ADA ramps that would not only clutter the facades, but also reduce the amount of program area available for events.
So all the infill of that's creating this events lawn. So the current condition, I see you come out of the mansion and you actually stepped down into the backyard, went across the yard, and then you stepped back up to the conservatory.
Correct.
I see.
And
But it's because of that step down and that infill that you need to create that. Okay.
Overall, Broad Street is low. So there's a 7-foot rise across the entire site as you get to the back.
Mm-hmm. Who's doing the landscape design?
Studio Brian Haynes.
Okay. I'd encourage them to, really think about this. I mean, I think that I'm now seeing why you're doing some of these things that I couldn't quite understand because I wasn't understanding the elevations. But I think that the landscape opportunity here is there's some fantastic opportunities here. So I'm glad you've got a good company going for that.
All right, we have sort of two other components that come to mind. One is the fence replacement, and the second is the proposed signage. I noticed that with the replacement of the balusters, there were a couple of alternatives shown. One, I guess, had it extending at least one bay around the corner, and perhaps one bay further up Broad Street, if I'm and I do think that since this building is so highly visible from the corner, it would be nice if the baluster, the stone baluster, could turn the corner. And I guess that's something you're proposing as an alternate?
Correct.
Yeah.
We like it too.
Yeah, we look at, as architects, we look at buildings in elevation on flat drawings, but they're really three-dimensional things. And that corner is such the prominent view, especially with those wonderful curved bays, that's just as high profile a facade as any. And I think taking that gesture of just one, it's funny, before I even saw the option, I wanted it to go just that one bay, because I do think it would help.
We agree. We're crossing our fingers the budget allows, but we agree completely.
The fencing, the metal fencing, is that like a black aluminum? It kind of looks like a kind of almost, an aluminum with the standard tip, pinched tip on the top of the spike. Sometimes with those, they look a little clunky. And so I would just say, and in some of these elevations, less posts, the better. Because I think in some of the runs, it looks like it's not the best detail, but I think overall, I think it's a good approach.
It's a good comment. We did look at having just the pickets with the deco tips, if you will, but we chose to make the tripartite arrangement, meaning showing these small picket posts to align and call back to the original limestone balustrade, which also it has that divisible by 3. So that's the reason for it. Doesn't mean it was the right reason, but that was the reason, was that because we, despite our, aspirations, are not able to restore a character that doesn't exist, we can recall it. So that was the reasoning for it.
Well, then I support it for that reason. I think that's that's a logical concept behind it. Sometimes when they're in short runs, it calls attention to the less expensive nature of it. But overall, I think it's fine. I think I understand it.
One area going to the next level where the posts are missing and then it's continuous picket. I guess obviously there's certainly looks like there's a missing element with the bases there. You can see it. I don't know that other than replacing the posts, I don't know that there's a better solution than what you're showing.
Alternative materials that are a little less expensive than full stone replacement, but I don't know what their
You mean
longevity.
doing a cast stone post?
Yeah.
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 I mean, if there's a section that feels like something's really missing and, budget doesn't allow, I think there's a way to get there without being a purist about it.
And if you are doing cast stone replacement in other areas, then as an incremental cost, it's, maybe certainly worth considering these.
Yeah, something to consider.
Yeah.
Okay.
That could be included in the ad alternate where we turn the bay onto Jefferson, which we all like, but don't know if it's actually feasible. So that could be explored as part of that ad alternate.
We'd love to see that, as would you, I'm sure.
Yes.
In terms of the flags on the front facade, I have no problem with 2. I think it only adds to the liveliness of the facade. It's just my own opinion. Others might disagree.
Page 45.
I think my concern is actually for the separate standalone stone element with words on it. I think it's a little difficult to see, but I think on the right-hand image, am I correct that there would be a separate stone
That
element
is like
or
that's like
something?
a monument sign. Like
Not
one of
sure.
a standard university monument sign that would be freestanding.
But it's the one on the pier that you're showing us. Is that?
No, I think you can just see it behind the baluster.
It's a
Is that-
site wall sign. Yes, you're correct. That
Yeah.
is identity signage for potential donors. We thought having it as a site wall as opposed to cluttering up the facade with additional elements was a graceful way to do that. Maybe that was the wrong call, but that's what we studied as we thought the most sensitive way to approach it.
Well, when you look at number 1 and 2, the having a name set into the frieze of the entablature as a long and noble tradition. So in that sense, I didn't even think twice about you putting a name there. Whereas option 3, where the name is down by the balustrade, that actually made me look twice. So in that sense, the pin lettering at the entablature is a little more consistent for me, or appropriate. With the flags, I mean, what's interesting is when you look at the historic photo, there actually were 2 flagpoles there originally at the second floor windows. Nothing at the main entrance. Was there any discussion about taking that approach?
There was, and maybe Martin would like to weigh in on this. That was one of the approaches we studied, was replicating that and talking with the client. There was interest in centralizing those. That's what you're seeing. But we did study basically replicating that historic condition. I don't know, Martin, if you have more comments as far as the position of those flags.
Yeah, it was more of cut what we've done on other buildings on Broad Street, where we have the flag in the central location above the entry doors. But that was kind of the logic behind the placement that we were thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, this photo that we're looking at is from the 70s, 1972. So we don't know at what point those showed up either, to sort of say how historic that approach is.
It's hard to imagine they were there in 1909, but again, we don't know.
Yeah,
that's supposition.
I just had one other thing that it's a very small thing, but on one of the drawing sheets for the conservatory, I think it's sheet 25? There's a side door, 12, new aluminum door frame. Is that just mechanical or, or service entrance?
It's both. So that is the service, excuse me, that is the service entrance for when they had catering or janitorial services. It also is a code required egress. So it's doing a few things.
Yeah, I was reacting to the kind of just solid, almost solid aluminum nature of it, wishing it was something a little more attractive. I don't know if you're able to put a larger window in it or something, but it just looks a little too, utilitarian, but I'm not going to die on that hill.
We were trying to make it discreet. It doesn't mean it was the right thing to do, but we were trying to be discreet because it is at the vehicular parking lot. It's right next to the trash enclosure. So we were trying to really, and it's not a primary ingress, if you will. It's a service door that ideally is only used for service or in the case of emergency. So that was the thinking behind it. Again, doesn't mean that that was the right approach.
Fair enough. I'm happy to accept that. It's a lovely project. I mean, this building is so desperate. It's amazing that it's survived as it has for so long. And it's wonderful to see it brought back to life. It'll totally change that block. And congratulations on that.
Yeah, and I think it's a great program use for that site as well. It's terrific. Great project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So do we have other comments from committee members? Is there public comment?
No hands are raised.
All right, then let's have a motion.
So I'll make a motion of approval pursuant to standards 9 and 10. You heard a series of comments over the past half hour with suggestions or we prefers. I don't know that any of those have risen to the level of being, that approval's contingent on any of those happening, but we ask that they be explored.
Understood, and a number of them will definitely continue to review with the staff.
Well, yeah, and I was going to second with the addition that staff to review all details. I think it's really, there's so many things here that the staff will need to kind of follow through on overseeing. So with staff to review details.
I accept.
Do we have a second?
Justin was the second.
Second. All right, then, unless I hear otherwise, we have unanimous consent.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, now we move on to 6363 Overbrook Avenue.
Good morning. My name is Josh Froder. I'm with the staff. I'll be reading an introduction for the application for 6363 Overbrook. If we could elevate the homeowner, Stephen Cunningham, and if he is here, Alvin Holm, the architect for this project.
Josh?
Yes.
I may be the only one, but I cannot see your screen. Are there others who can see that? Oh, there it is. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So this application proposes to construct a deck on the front porch of the dwelling at 6363 Overbrook Avenue. The front porch was open when the home was originally constructed, but was later enclosed. The proposed deck would cover the entire roof of the front porch, as well as the car park to the side. The proposed deck would include vinyl railings and a new semicircular platform supported by 4 new columns extending over the front steps to the porch. An exterior steel spiral staircase to access the roof from the ground would be included on the side opposite the car park. And for some context, construction of the roof deck began in the fall of 2025 without permits or review by the Historical Commission. The Department of Licenses and Inspections issued a stop work order in violation in January. Images show that a platform over the porch roof, posts for the railing, and bases for the columns have already been constructed. In addition, the two outermost second-floor windows on the front facade have been removed, openings altered for doors, and new doors and exterior light fixtures installed. The submitted plans show those new second-floor doors as existing, but this change was made as part of the construction of the deck. And the staff recommendation is denial pursuant to standards 2 and 9. And this photo just shows it's from a few years ago, but more or less shows the existing the condition of the house before the construction started. We have a few photos that show what was done before the work stopped, and you can kind of see up at the top those new doors as well as the beginnings of the deck. Thank you.
Is the applicant elevated to explain why he started without a permit?
Yeah, I was misinformed. And that's why I'm here now to straighten that out. I didn't think if I was changing the structure of the house that I would need a permit.
Was this engineered structurally by anybody?
Alvin Home. What was it? Can you repeat that? What was the question? Blueprints.
I asked if a structural engineer, blessed that the roof of, the surface that the deck is going on could hold the weight.
Oh. Yeah.
And then your blueprints for the new stuff. You're going through an architect.
Yes.
I would say this is an unfortunate set of
It's a new
circumstances.
It's also unfortunate that it's all being made out of vinyl as opposed to some sort of composite wood. But having said that, the committee can't say okay. I mean, if this was brought to us before you started, I think one of the comments we would have had was the selection of materials that are being used to construct the deck.
You're talking about the railings? The railings?
Yeah, that it's all vinyl.
No, it's not all vinyl.
Yeah, the deck is composite.
Well, but the railing of the deck, the pickets are what's being proposed as the railing. Is that
Wow. Yeah, they're vinyl.
The white cement.
Okay, they are vinyl.
And the reason I
Okay.
did that, yeah, they have not been installed yet,
Okay.
as the pictures show. The reason I did that is to prevent deterioration, rot, and excessive maintenance. They also match the interior of my home, and their shape and size. My staircase railings.
But do they really? I mean, in concept they might, but I mean, we've all seen these vinyl systems and the connections between them. They've got that odd like collar thing that goes in there, and they start to sag over time, and they're the wrong sheen. They scream that they're vinyl, and it just does not befitting the character of this house.
But I think here the big issue is this is the primary facade of the house, and it's being significantly altered. I guess you've cut down two windows to become doors.
Well, if I were to replace those railings with, just took the sill out and replaced the window mold. They used the original window moldings on the door doors, exteriors as much as we could. The whole top and most of the side sections of the windows are reusing the original moldings.
So the addition of the circular stair is something that, I don't know that we would typically be fond of, especially in a location like this. It's one thing if it's a, deck from the second floor for a primary space, bedroom space or something, but the circular stair seems odd.
It's also if you're asking to modify windows, then why do you need the spiral stair from grate?
Because
Sorry.
the doors are coming from the bedrooms, and if I have company over, I don't necessarily want to come through the house and through the bedrooms to access the deck.
Well, typically alterations that are this extensive, the first criteria is visibility, and this is obviously highly visible. And most often we would see these on the rear of the house and not on the primary facade. So I think
there's over a dozen front porch, second floor with a cursory search. That's just between 63rd Street and 66th Street on Sherwood, Overbrook, Drexel, and Woodbine.
Yeah. And we don't know whether those are original or whether they were most likely installed before the designation of the district.
I don't know for sure, but there is a precedent for having second-story roof decks on the front
So we would need to see
of the house.
We would need to see those precedents.
Yeah, sending a list.
Where?
I'm not. Do you mean physically see the properties?
Photos of them. If you're saying that this is something that's consistent with other houses in the neighborhood, we should see what those are. Because I've been street viewing during this conversation, and I haven't seen one yet. But I'm apparently going down the wrong streets.
Correct. Drexel Road has I don't have the address in my head. That has a 6399 has a roof deck from all the way across from side to side with 3 doors. On it. That's whatever the house next to that is 97, or it has a roof deck.
We've got the list over there somewhere.
Yeah, I sent in a list. And if you need me to submit photos, I did. One address the number was wrong, and that was on Church Road. It's actually 6416. I think I put the wrong address there. And that also has a circular semicircle on the front of the house with columns.
But they have the list.
Yeah, I sent the list in.
This is Jeff and the staff. I don't recall if the list was sent in that I received it. I'll check again in advance of.
Oh, I see. It's
A list
it's on PDF page 11.
Yeah, it's just a list, no photos.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, that's the list. Okay.
I think the issue is that if this had been come before us for review, we would not necessarily have, as one of 7 people, we're back to 7. It's something as far as visibility and the choice of materials. there's issues of visibility of the deck on the front of a house. And if this had come to us for approval before you started, the issues that I see would have been the placement of the deck
You're
on the
breaking
front
up.
of,
You're not, she's not breaking up.
it's your
Oh, no, it
reception.
dropped out. I'm sorry. Okay.
There are two issues. One is your selection of materials, and two, the visibility of the deck.
Selection of materials.
The fact that you have elected to fabricate this deck out of a lot of plastic materials.
Okay. If I
But
I were to change the railing.
The material of the deck is composite and wood.
But I don't believe we as an architectural committee can say okay to this document at this point in time. That would be up to the commission. But John or Dan, correct me if I am incorrect.
Our role as a committee is to inform the commission to whether or not we think the project meets the Secretary of Interior standards, and this does not. And had we seen it, as Nan said, as the design before construction began, we would not have
What materials would be
recommended to the
needed for the deck?
commission.
Because it's made of wood and composite decking.
It's more than just the materials. It's also the whole alteration to the principal facade of the building. With the railings, the fascias, the added porch columns, the stair. It's a fundamental change to a building that's two very important architects worked on this, Horace Trumbauer and
Walter Price. I understand they made changes as well to the exterior. They were part of the file. They to the solarium, they enclosed it, and then they added the portico, and they added the two bay windows.
I think, we cannot recommend to the commission that this meets the Secretary of the Interior standards. I think the commission has
what would I need to do to
latitude,
make?
But
what would I need to do to make it meet? Because I'm very deep into this project financially and time wise.
Right. Well, those are arguments, or those are conversations that need to happen with the commission. I think from our point of view, if there are precedents for this that you found, it would be very important to show those.
Okay.
To the commission.
So if I send pictures of other decks, is that?
You should include those when you make your presentation to the commission. The staff can help you with that.
Okay.
But I think that's a conversation between you and Josh.
Okay.
Not this committee.
We're a first review here at this committee, and then we advise the full commission, who ultimately makes the decision. And that meeting follows this one at a later date. So, we can give our thoughts, and then ultimately it's for them to decide.
Okay.
Right, Kim?
So I'm looking for suggestions from you, so how I can get this project to completion. Because I don't want to tear it off. I'd rather make it right. And I'm asking you to let me know what to do to make it right.
I think you've heard us. I think that's a conversation between you and the staff, and what needs to be done to these drawings for the submission to the full commission. of
Okay.
which Dan McCoubry will be. I don't want to speak for you, Dan. Will be at the meeting and will voice the concerns of the architectural committee. I think we need to see if there's other committee comments and public comment. We've seen the letters that have been written in your support, and we
Right.
need to move on with our meeting because we're running late.
I do think it's also important to show what's happened to the two windows that have had the sills removed, just so the extent of change is clear. So with that, if there are no other comments from committee members, is there public comment?
No hands are raised.
Then,
You want to say anything, Jesse?
I think I'm fine.
Okay.
then we are ready for a motion.
I will make a motion of denial of going with the staff recommendations of denial pursuant to standards 2 and 9.
We have a second?
I'll
second.
Then unless I hear otherwise, we have unanimous consent.
Aye.
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 All right, well, thank you. All right, next on the agenda is 3440 West Penn Street.
Good morning. This is Kim Chantry with the staff. Tony, if we could please elevate owner Kevin Ballardine to panelist. He's the owner and applicant for the project, and I'll read the overview. This application proposes to legalize the installation of vinyl windows at 3440 West Penn Street. In February 2026, a member of the community contacted the Historical Commission with photographs showing that the windows at the subject property had been replaced. And here's one of those photos. The original rolled steel casement windows on the first and second floors of the front facade were removed and replaced with vinyl casement windows without proper permits or the Historical Commission's approval. The Historical Commission staff requested that the Department of Licenses and Inspections issue a violation, which was issued on March 3rd. The original window configuration for this building, for this style of building, in the Historic District consisted of a rolled steel casement window with 4 8-light leaves at the first floor and a casement window with 2 operable 8-light leaves and 8 fixed lights at the second floor. The new configuration features 9 light leaves with 4 on the first floor and 3 on the second floor, all with grills between the glass. And the staff recommendation is for denial pursuant to standards 2 and 6.
The owner on the call?
Yeah, I'm
Kevin,
Oh, okay, sorry.
Okay.
Did you not know you needed a permit to replace your windows?
I did not. So this happened in the winter. The old steel frames for these had warped to the point that there was an inch gap between, like you could see outside. And with the winter we had, it was accumulating ice inside and had started to rot out the interior of the wood inside. So I did a quick search. I saw that for windows, it wasn't required for a permit. And then I didn't realize that it's different for historical association or historically designated area. So, you know, once we got this notice, I understand that we did need it. I'm here, you know, to try and figure out what can be done. You know, initially I know they do look white here. I was planning to have someone come out and do, you know, paint them and do a little bit of facade work to make them look more like the original rolled steel. I don't know if that would be acceptable to the commission. I'm willing to work and, you know, make sure that the windows are ultimately up to code and up to standard.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
the
tough
unfortunate.
because- Go ahead, John.
No, I've been talking a lot today.
We both have. I'll just say that what's unfortunate is that when they replaced them, they also made them smaller, and there's now this large kind of trim around them, I think, which is larger than what was there before, it seems. Also, the use of vinyl we don't support, and the muntins between the glass we don't support in these districts. So it's just, you know, and it's, vinyl's not easily paintable and all of these things. So it's just certainly not something we would have approved if given the opportunity.
Yeah, I understand. I didn't realize I had to come in for the approval. I understand that's my responsibility, right? But ignorance isn't justification. Just was not intentional.
This is also where we get grumpy with the installers who should know also, but they should have better knowledge than you.
Yes, I have thought about that myself as well. Yeah. Here I am. One of the things that I had thought about doing, and to be honest, I hadn't realized the size until you pointed it out, but I was thinking about possibly installing a frame on the exterior. I have the wood trimming here, so I could get somebody to come out and, kind of build like a metal facade on the outside so that it would look similar to how it had looked before. Also considered replacing the windows themselves. I know that the leaves are not the same configuration. They're also on the inside, but I could replace the windows with some leaves that are on the exterior to make it look a little more like the, and with the proper configuration, right? 2 and 2, not 3 and 3, to make it look more like the neighboring houses.
So one of the purview of this particular committee, we're the architectural committee, so we are advisory to the full commission. The staff probably let you know that already, but we need to review things against the Secretary of the Interior guidelines. So if something, it's as if it came in front of us as a drawing, not as a built work.
I understand. You're not approving based on the things I could do. You're approving based on what you see, right?
Right. So our committee can't really approve something that's not appropriate. It's all unfortunate the way this happened, and the full commission has more latitude than we do. They can take financial hardship and other things into account that we cannot. So this committee unfortunately needs to review your application based on its acceptability to those guidelines.
Sure, I understand that.
Unfortunately, any money you kind of throw at it in terms of trying to paint them or, make them look like they used to, it might be, you might be halfway to just unfortunately replacing them again.
Right.
I hate to say it, but
so it doesn't sound like I'll get an approval out of here. What I'm hearing.
Correct.
What would my next steps be? Is it just to work with the staff and see what can be done?
Well,
Yes,
you have the
that's one
opportunity to
alternative. Yeah,
present your, sorry.
You could continue to take this to the commission if you so choose, or you could work with the staff and come up with an alternative that you think might be more approvable.
And then I would come back here, I guess, after.
You would come back to this committee, most likely, unless the staff can approve certain window replacements. If they deem it meets the standards, you wouldn't have to come back to us or the commission.
I will probably work with the staff rather than moving this up. I mean, it sounds like I would probably get the same response, and I'm not trying to sneak something in here. I do want to make this look the way it's supposed to look. So
if it's any consolation, Kevin, and I mean no disrespect, the approvable solution here is going to look phenomenal. And I think I know it's going to be money out of your pocket, and I don't know, your circumstances, but I think it'll add significant value to your house as well. If that's any consolation.
I mean, it is, This was honestly something that was done quickly because there was some interior rot that was happening. I mean, that's been solved. That would have been a serious problem at this point. So I know that I'll probably have to spend something to correct these. I'm okay with that. Then I can work with the staff to figure out what the next steps here are.
Well, and another benefit will be you'll have more visible glass, which therein brings more light into your home. So that's a small consolation.
That is true.
But we do appreciate I do appreciate your your situation. But our hands are kind of tied.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I figured I'd come here and see, what I could do, but I kind of assumed coming in that I would have to work with the staff here. So yeah, that's fine. I get it.
Well, good. I think that's a good approach. So with that, are there other comments from committee members? Is there public comment? I know we did receive several letters.
Yes, 2 hands raised. First, Jay Farrell, and then Nancy Pontone.
I see a Jay Farrell there.
Jay, you'll need to unmute from your end.
He's lowered his hand now.
All right.
We'll try Nancy Pontone. If Mr. Farrell is interested in speaking, he can raise his hand again.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, hi, this is Nancy Pontone, and as Dan mentioned, there are public comments listed, and one is by a former owner of the house and one by a former neighbor who both worked on the Tudor East Falls Historic District nomination, as well as a neighbor on West Penn and myself on Midvale in the district. We all agree that the staff that the application should be denied. Keeping these Tudor revival homes as originally designed was an objective of the nomination. Other Tudor revival neighborhoods developed by Michael J. McCrudden have not kept their architectural integrity and charm. This neighborhood has, but it gets eroded when, for example, inappropriate vinyl windows are installed. So please keep the integrity of this neighborhood by denying legalization and insisting on replacement windows that match the old. Better still, rehabbing and installing original rolled steel casement windows salvaged by neighbors would be the best outcome. It has been done before. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Are there other comments?
No other hands are raised.
All right, then let's have a motion.
Make a motion of denial pursuant to standards 2 and 6.
I'll second.
Then, unless I hear otherwise, we have unanimous consent.
Aye.
Aye.
All
May
right,
wish you
thank
luck.
you. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda, last item, is 40 Spring Garden Street.
Good morning, everyone. This is Allison from the staff. Actually, before I get started real quick, can we ask that Evan Litvin and Seth Brown be elevated to panelist? Thank you. This application seeks in-concept approval for a 3-story addition on a 2-story building known as Building D within the Philadelphia Warehousing and Cold Storage Company complex. The existing building was constructed in 1891 and 1900, first serving as the ice machine house and then as a machine shop for the company. Although it was built in 2 phases, the primary elevation facing North Beach Street appears as a unified facade. It is clad in red brick and detailed with rough-faced stone. This project proposes to adaptively reuse the building with commercial space on the ground floor and residential units on the upper floors. Adjacent projects in this historic complex that were previously reviewed were buildings B and F. and they were reviewed at public meetings. When the adjacent construction is completed, the east and south elevations of Building D will remain visible from the public right-of-way. The west wall of the building will be visible within a private courtyard of Building F that includes the industrial brick stack. So the staff recommended approval of the in-concept application pursuant to Standard 9. And today we have architect Evan Litvin joining us, and I believe that owner Seth Brown is also here.
Great. Thank you, Allison. I just have a few comments to make. As you mentioned, we are here for an early in-concept review. We are working with Seth Brown on the proposed project. It fronts onto the decommissioned North Beach Street. As Allison mentioned, our proposed scope includes a major restoration, renovation, and addition to the existing building, converting and adapting it from various commercial uses to a mixed-use building that activates the cobblestone street level. The use will include a large commercial space at the ground floor with residential units above. The project will include a full restoration of the existing facade, including opening all of the closed arch windows. Considering 1, the previous uses and configuration of the building, and 2, the location within the floodplain, there are several functional modifications that this conversion will require. It will require lowering the sills and converting windows to doors on Beach Street to provide required and adequate ingress and egress for commercial and residential spaces, and adding access for a refuse room. 2, raising the first floor to 18 inches above the current level to meet floodplain requirements. 3, adding steps and a ramp to maintain accessibility. And then lastly, the proposed 3-story addition, which would, above the current building, it will be set back minimally behind the cornice line and will add 36 residential units. As you'll see in the submission, the building is sandwiched between 2 larger buildings within a complex that's already been reviewed several times. The proposed building is minimally visible from the public right-of-way, and it does occupy 100% of the site that it's sitting on. It's part of the condo, so all access does come from the front. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions and look forward to hearing your feedback.
So the raising of the floor level.
Yes.
So when I look at the existing photo, and I guess it's hard to tell because these openings are all infilled. The opening is just getting shorter then. You're not changing anything else about it.
If I'm understanding the question.
Yeah, I'm not saying it well.
If I'm understanding, the idea is to cut through the granite, and we're going to lower the sills of the windows, and then we're also going to raise the slab of the floor inside.
And you're creating a terrace, I guess, out front, or a staircase to come up to that new level.
In a sense, it's really functional only. The sidewalk is about roughly 10 feet wide, so it's really just steps and access. This is one, and as an in-concept review, we're showing sort of I want to say worst case. There is an alternate version that would put the steps inside, though we're not sure we'll be able to accomplish that from a floodplain perspective.
So just, I guess the follow-up to my question,
sure.
Trying to ask it a little more succinctly or better than I did before. The granite base looks like it moved up the facade, so that when I look at the existing photo, when I look at the amount of granite to sidewalk, it looks like there might be a little bit less in this rendering compared to the existing photo, but not 18 inches worth, or maybe it is 18 inches and it's just my sense of scale is just a little off on this building. Is that granite base getting raised at all?
Oh, I got you. No, it's not. The top of it is not being touched, and in between the windows is not being
I see.
touched either.
Right,
Yeah,
but if you look at this rendering and then look at that photo and where the lines are, it looks like something might be getting raised up.
Understood. That is not the intention.
Okay.
And we'll clarify that when we come back for the full review.
Is there any way not to remove the granite base at the windows that are not doors?
No.
Just to maintain. Why
No.
can't you shorten the window?
The
What do
reason-
you?
Go ahead.
I'm not sure I understand what you gain by seeing a table. You can still see people sitting at the table, but I'm not sure whether the loss of fabric of the building is warrants removal of the granite at those locations that are not doors.
I fully understand the sentiment, and we're not proposing it lightly. I'll say that. It was an internal discussion. And the reason is, I'll say this, the rendering that you're seeing right now is conceptual. Like we're not proposing who is going to be occupying it. The reason we need the amount of doors is because there could be 2 commercial spaces.
I'm not arguing with not removing granite where you need to put in a door. I totally understand that part. I'm questioning the need to remove the granite where you're proposing to put in a window. I don't know what that additional 20 inches of glass accomplishes.
Are they all doors?
They're all doors.
Are they? But do you need them all to be doors?
We do. And the reason is we need 2 means of egress for the residential, and then ideally 2 means of egress for the commercial. There could be more than 1 commercial space ultimately. And we'd like to minimize the mixing of, we'd like to have a clear egress path that doesn't require, commercial occupants to go through a potentially residential space.
Does one of them open onto a ramp?
It will not. Well, that's a good point, but no, that we will not ultimately.
There's the ramp issue. There are tables that are shown in front. So you should really change your rendering if you're proposing that all these need to be converted to doors in order to address what you just said.
And if it is not needed to be a door, I think what we're saying is that we would prefer it to be maintained as it is, especially since you're losing the visibility of much of that masonry base by needing to raise up that kind of floor level. We're not opposed to it. It's just don't do it any more than you have to for function.
Understood.
This might be a dumb question, but what is that bridge or something that connects into the front of it, and is it moving?
It's not moving. It's I believe there is electrical going from one building to the other. It's really we're not touching it as part of this proposal. It's an existing element. You can see in some of the photos.
Yeah, I mean the rendering shows it relocated.
Right.
I mean it ultimately dies into your building, right?
Yeah, it's not moving. Yeah, it's a conceptual rendering to try to convey some of these modifications at the ground floor. But
these are the dangers of showing something that's too realistic. Is it suddenly changes reality? So I would just say be careful not to like the stone base. Don't just pick it up in a rendering and lift it up if you're not going to change the stone. I think that's what we're struggling with some of these points here. In terms of the street paving, are you touching that?
No.
Okay.
And is this approval for the addition on top or just for the modifications to the lower 2 floors?
Nan, this is an in-concept review, so I think for the upper floors, it would be approval for the massing.
the proposed massing at this point.
For just the massing.
That's
I'm
correct.
just, I don't mean to sound so ornery. I'm just trying to understand what it is that we're actually being asked to review. Because
Sure.
some of it looks very detailed and some of it is very much more conceptual.
Sure. For the overbuild, the intention is to be minimally set back and to add 3 stories. So it's really we're here to talk about the massing for the in concept level. And I'll just say one more thing about the overbuild, and you can see it in some of the interior photos. The portion of the building on the left has a heavy timber gable structure and the idea, if you see there's sort of a reveal between an overbuild and the existing building. The idea is to maintain that existing framing within the building because it's a really, really nice special element. And then set a level, that's the photo on the right. And we can set it, we'll have sort of a cavity space with a flat floor plate in line or above it, but it retains that structure.
And as part of this, as part of the review of the overbuild, it would be nice to show it in plan, not just in elevation, I'll say, because the plans appear to show as if your overbuild is sitting on top of the existing parapet wall, not behind it or 3 feet behind it or whatever. So it would be nice as part of the massing, and as in my opinion, would be to understand where is this addition in relation to the roof of the existing building.
Sure. Yeah, we'll absolutely clarify that going forward. Like I said, the intention is to sit right behind the cornice line.
So I guess I would just comment on the overbuild that I think it's appropriate in general based on the proportions that I see. But I think, as Nan says, it's the details that are going to matter. And, the facade down below steps in and out. So where it is relative to all that is important. I think having some level of setback is critical, and a change in materiality between new and old so that you understand that something is an overbuild. But other than that, it's really hard to comment because the details aren't there. Right. So I think, when you come back, it's the details that matter to this group. For me, as one of 7, the massing seems appropriate for the overbuild. So I would recommend that you proceed in that and really try to refine how the new overbuild relates to the existing building. It's really more about that for myself.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think, in concept, it seems fair to build on top of this, but you're almost just showing us a rectangle. I mean, there's no dimension to it. I'm assuming it's drawn to scale. But, I do think some level of setback is important. One thing I'm not liking about the rendering, and I know it's just a rendering, but hitting that could you stay on that last one we were just on, Allison? You're showing it hitting flush with the corner of the building to the right. I think maintaining that relationship of a corner is important for that massing. So I think this thing would have to sit back a little and also allow this wonderful kind of crenellated top of this low building to read independently. And again, as Amy said, contrasting the materials of what's above to recede, I think would be helpful.
Is the smokestack remaining?
It's not part of this proposal. I believe.
Right, but is it intended to remain?
John, it's protected and it's part of a previously approved development.
Right. So is the fact that we're obscuring the visibility of it part of the concern or part of our review?
We wrestled with that previously in one of the previous developments that, the visibility of the smokestack's important. I don't know how visible it is in this little narrow
Yeah, I think
area.
it's a very, very narrow passageway, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, at this point, you'd have to really be standing on Beach Street against the other building next to it to see it, because the building on the corner really does obscure it from Front Street and yeah, and Noble Street.
All right, do we have other comments from committee members?
No.
Is there public comment?
Yes, one hand is raised. David Traub.
David Traub here, representing Save Our Sites. The existing lower two-story building, I didn't know it exists. I've never been back there. Obviously, a lot of potential for adaptive reuse, and the architects have done an incredible job with the lower two floors. They've created a very beautiful, distinguished facade. It's just really magnificent. Yes, there's been some loss of historic material, but under the circumstances, I think that's justified. The experience of walking down little narrow Beach Street will be marvelous with this facade to the side and people seated at the cafe windows. I guess my question is, what's the three-story addition above going to look like? I look forward to seeing that. I expect it to have the same quality as that of the lower two floors. Thank you.
This is Seth Brown. I'm the owner. I haven't spoken before. I want to thank the committee and also just, the earlier conversation we talked about the windows and the platform and the steps and ramp. For all the buildings we've done in this whole property, it's been challenging to work both with floodplain issues and trying to retain the historic aspects of the building. So I think we've tried really hard in this design to try to do that and make sure that we hit the required first floor elevation requirement. We have to bring it up considerably and provide appropriate ADA access. So I'm sure we can work on the details for the next round, but I just wanted to just kind of underscore that was a big piece of what we were trying to do here.
Say in general, this whole development of this whole complex is a terrific win.
Thanks very much.
And we look forward to seeing this developed.
Great, thank you.
I guess we've heard all the public comments, so then let's have a motion.
I'll make a motion of approval in concept pursuant to standard 9.
Second.
Then, unless I hear otherwise, we have unanimous consent.
Aye.
I'm going to say nay. I think the motion's too vague. But there's 6 fors and 1 against, and
well, it's just
it's been a long meeting.
It's approval and concept, so without details, we can't approve much more anyways.
Right. Well,
Understood.
let's take a step back and address the concern. So, would you prefer a motion that sort of restricted the number of stories or the height, or?
I don't think we know enough about the massing to understand what is really being proposed to say that it's going to be okay. Because we don't really have any details other than this one elevation. So we don't know what the ins and outs are. We don't know the relationship to the building on the bottom. We don't know the materials. We don't know how it meets the adjacent building.
I think we've stated all of that, I guess, in our
But we haven't
comments.
stated it in the motion.
Well, the
And we don't
motion is
necessarily
simply
have
to
to.
say,
We don't have to make a motion.
don't even need a motion, really, yes.
Right.
So
Yeah, I mean, that's, I guess, I understand.
Anyway,
I
let's
mean, my,
let's let it
let's
stand.
move forward, and it's just my orneriness on 12 whatever it is on Tuesday. So
Getting hangry.
All right.
no, I'm just like getting further behind on other projects.
We do appreciate Seth and Evan coming before us again. We, this is a very complicated campus here, and so thank you for coming for the concept approval.
Of course.
Have
All
a
right.
good day,
well,
everybody.
Thank you all.
Wait,
Yep.
there's one more. Oh, that's right. We lost the last one.
We lost
Very
the
good.
last
Yeah.
one.
Bye.
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 See you all next month.